You ever see those police lights blue and red flickering across your windshield and think for just 1 second, here we go, they picked the wrong one today? That was me, except this time, I was the one in uniform full army dress, medals and all, handcuffed on the curb in front of half the neighborhood, my own daughter sobbing in the grass. Let me tell you, when that cop sneered at me, "Your badge means nothing here," and jerked those cuffs a notch tighter, I realized right then this wasn't just about me, or even about being a soldier. This was about the line, you know, the one that runs between justice and power, and how fast it moves when you're not the one holding it. But let me back up a sec, because the way I landed in that squad car, my whole life on display for everybody with a phone, didn't start with handcuffs. It started like so many stories, with Family adjusting my medals in the mirror, running late for a meeting, daughter hollering about a lost calculus book, sunlight streaming through a not-so-fancy window on base at Fort Benning. I worked for every bit of that brass 3 tours overseas, 5 years at the Pentagon, more nights awake than asleep, and now, on the edge of making Brigadier General, first black woman to command the 198th Infantry Brigade. All that, and I still made time to drive my Zora to school and fuss about curfew, because that's what moms do, whether you run a platoon or a household. That day was like any other meetings, paperwork, the usual head-butting with the old guard who thought my reforms were too soft. Coddling, they called it, when all I wanted was to keep our soldiers alive and sane. Around here, folks either loved what I was doing or hated that someone like me had the authority to do it. That tension, it wasn't just on base. Columbus, Georgia, beautiful, complicated place still had folks who saw my skin first, my uniform second. And I guess for some of those officers that night, that's all they saw. It was late when the call came me a Columbus PD number. I didn't know. "Colonel Washington, this is Officer Dalton. We got your daughter here. House party, bunch of minors." She wasn't drinking, but she was there. My heart dropped, but I kept it together. Zora's a good kid, always has been, but I guess every parent gets blindsided sometimes. I drove straight out, didn't change out of my uniform. Maybe I thought the respect I'd earned would carry over. Yeah, that happened. The neighborhood on Riverside Drive looked straight out of a magazine, big lawns, perfect hedges, money old enough to be suspicious of anyone in camouflage. Police cars everywhere, blue lights painting shadows across fancy brick. When I stepped out, shoes clicking, I saw them officers eyeing me, confusion and a little bit of that look I got my whole career, surprise, then suspicion, sometimes even open contempt. Most of the kids on the lawn were white. The handful of black teenagers, including my Zora, were grouped separate, watched harder. You know what I mean? I found the 2 lead officers, one tall and nervous, the other, Sergeant Holloway, all mustache and attitude. I introduced myself, laid out my credentials, held out my ID. Holloway didn't even look at it. "Lady, you need to wait with the other parents. Or maybe you borrowed your husband's uniform for Halloween." That stung, but not because it was new IVE, heard it all before. But I kept my cool, kept my voice low and even, just like they teach you in command school. Still, every time I tried to move the conversation forward, Holloway shut me down, crowding in close, talking about fake IDs and my crime scene. All the while, I could see Zora, scared and confused, and neighbors filming, ready to blast whatever happened next straight to the internet. I tried one last time, asked if the younger officer, Mercer, could check with Fort Benning to confirm who I was. Instead, Holloway barked, "Hand where I can see them," right hand on his holster, voice sharp enough to startle the other kids. The air got tight then. Mercer looked nervous, but loyalty and fear kept him in line. When I stepped toward the captain on the porch, just a single step, Holloway grabbed my arm, rough and fast. Instinct kicked in, years of training telling my body how not to get hurt. And in that split second, it was over. He twisted me down, knee in my back, metals digging into the dirt, grass stains across my ribbons, Zora screaming "Mom" somewhere behind me. "You have the right to remain silent," Holloway said, like he was reading from script, except every word was for show. That's when I realized I wasn't going to talk my way out of this. Not tonight. They pulled me to my feet, paraded me past parents and kids. One white mom even shouted, "Is that really necessary?" She's in uniform, but nobody listened. They stuffed me in the back of the cruiser, Holloway cracking jokes about being on the other side of authority. Mercer opened the door, muttered, "Watch your head." And I nodded at Zora, tried to tell her with my eyes, "Stay calm, I'll fix this." In that squad car, I felt the whole weight of everything me rank, my service, the hope that if I was twice as good, twice as disciplined, it'd keep me safe. My father used to say that some people will never see past your skin, Amara. You've got to be perfect, and even then it might not be enough. Turns out he was right. Excellence didn't matter. My uniform was just fabric. They booked me slow-stripped off my medals, took my fingerprints, snapped a mugshot with dirt on my face. Some officers watched with pity, others with glee, like this was some trophy. When the captain finally checked my ID, he went pale, but protocol's protocol. "One phone call," he said. "That's all I needed." You ever wonder who you'd call if everything was on the line? I called General Richardson, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, a man who'd once told me, "If the uniform isn't respected, call me." He answered in 2 rings. I laid it out. Wrongfully arrested, full dress, daughter detained, charges fabricated. He said, "Stay on the line, Colonel," and I could hear him moving phones dialing, voices urgent. 3 minutes later, the governor was on the phone with the station, military police were en route, Pentagon legal teams mobilizing, the whole machine turning because one person wouldn't let it go. What happened next was a blur, doors flying open, the police chief apologizing. There seems to have been a misunderstanding. Richardson's voice crackling through the speaker. "This will be addressed at the highest level." I walked out to a line of cameras, a crowd outside, reporters asking if I'd sue, if I'd comment. I said nothing, but my silence said plenty. Zora was safe, brought to the base by military escort, but the next days turned into a hurricane media frenzy, threats, support, lawyers in my living room, federal investigations launched. Holloway and Mercer put on leave, body cam footage blasted nationwide, my arrest trending on social media. Some folks called me a hero, others a troublemaker playing the race card. The pressure ramped up. Anonymous cars outside my house, graffiti on my garage, someone even broke into Zora's locker at school. You ever feel the system pushing back, trying to make you small? That's how it felt. But the real twist came from inside Officer Mercer. The rookie reached out, scared but resolute. He had tapes, recordings of shift meetings, proof that Holloway wasn't just a bad apple, but the tip of a rotten system. Command staff instructing aggressive stops in minority neighborhoods, covering up complaints, targeting anyone who spoke out. We met in an abandoned warehouse because that's how real this got, and he handed over everything. "I just wanted to help people," he said. But sometimes the only way to do that is by standing up, not following orders. With Mercer's evidence, the DOJ moved fast search warrants, chiefs suspended, cities scrambling. By the end, the federal case wasn't about one arrest, but decades of corruption, profiling, and retaliation. The whole Columbus PD was put under a consent decree, new leadership, new oversight, the works. Holloway went down for conspiracy. Mercer got immunity and started helping with reform. Congress passed the Washington Act, my name making it law that civilian police can't just dismiss the uniform or the dignity of any American in service. I made Brigadier General. Zora got into West Point. The plaque where I was arrested now marks the spot not of my humiliation, but of the night things finally changed. I wish I could say the fight is over, but we both know better. What I learned is real power isn't about the badge or the uniform or the system. It's about what you do when all that's stripped away and you're left with nothing but your voice and your courage. So let me ask you, have you ever seen someone stand up and change the rules, not just for themselves, but for everybody after them? If you've ever witnessed a system close ranks to protect itself or seen one person break, tell your story in the comments. Like if you believe in justice for all, subscribe for more stories of courage, and share this video if you think it's time we expected better from those in power. Because true power doesn't shout, it transforms.